G'day legends, Blake here with another video, and I'm really excited today. I'm in the Fishroom of Jason's Cichlids on YouTube, Jason in real life. Thanks so much for welcoming me here, and I'm really excited to get crazy about tanks today.
Yeah, there's a few here.
So maybe to start off with people who haven't watched your channel before, and I definitely recommend that they do, tell us a bit about how you got into the hobby, how long you've been into it, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it kind of started in the mid-80s. My parents bought me an aquarium, and we put in some blue acara and some neon tetras, and the end result wasn't good. Pretty much a couple of days later, all those neon tetras were gone, mysteriously. We didn't know why. And eventually those blue acaras spawned, and that kind of stuck with me my entire life. Seeing that cloud of fry envelop the parents, and yeah, it was just something I'll never forget. And I'm 43 now, so you know, you're talking a while ago. And yeah, it's just something special about seeing that cloud of fry envelop those parents has stuck with me to this day.
All right, so all over the fish room, there's a beautiful canary yellow. So run us through what the species is.
Okay guys, so in these two tanks, I've got both my breeding pairs of Neolamprologus leilupi. As you can see, they've got a lot of fry with them. This tank actually has 2 batches of fry in it, this tank 1. And the males in both tanks aren't happy with the females at the moment. They're having a bit of a domestic, so not looking good. But one of the reasons for that is the amount of fry in here. They want to spawn again, and I need to get them out, but I just don't have anywhere appropriate for them just yet. So they're fine. The SPACs normally last about 2 to 3 days, and then they settle down again. Probably the worst thing you could do is remove the female from the tank and then try to put her back in, because then he would highly likely kill her. So if you guys ever have Tanganyikan cichlids, generally the general rule would be to keep the female in with the male and not separate them not separate the female from them, because you will definitely break the bond. This thing will sort itself out, especially if I was to move the fry out in a number of days. They'll be spawning again. It'll be all good.
That's a great tip, because my instant thought was, oh, just swap the females and then...
it can make things worse. Yeah, just stick with it. It's disheartening to see, obviously. You don't want to see the fish get tormented like this. One thing you could do is use rocks to break the line of sight up with some species of fish. Doesn't kind of work with the leilupis, it works more with the shell dwellers. The other thing, I could put some plants in here, say, but then all the digging would dig up the plants and they'll become floating. Or you can float some objects up in here, like some PVC pipes or something that floats, and the female can hide in that. But again, it's just let nature run its course. They'll be okay. They make up in 2 or 3 days.
And so how old would these fry be though?
They're about 6 or 7 months old, I'd say. It's one thing I don't really keep track of, because there's just so many fry coming out, all the different dates. The female in here, she used to do a pretty good job at protecting new spawns from the older generations of fry, but her instinct to do that has stopped, and that's why there's 1 spawn in this tank. Over this tank, if you look close, you'll see there's 2 sizes of fry. And this female is really, really good at protecting the younger generation of fry from the new spawn. So it's rare that they do that, but you know, I've been able to document that if I had just the 1 breeding pair, I wouldn't know that they can look after multiple batches at the one go. Generally, the fry will just, the moment they see the eggs, they'll eat the eggs. So I've seen them while they're spawning, the fry going in, eating eggs. Yeah. So and their instinct doesn't kick in to protect that spawn.
And so was it just sort of getting 2 smaller ones and 2 bigger ones, or? Yeah,
pretty much. You're looking at size. So I was fortunate enough, the shop had adults, so you can start to tell the males from the females because of size, pointed dorsal and anal fin, as well as just general bulk of the fish. If you look at the male compared to the female, it just looks bulkier. It's a hard thing to describe, but you can definitely, one of the easier ways to tell is the pointedness of the dorsal fin. They're generally a lot more pointy on the males than the females, but that also goes for the anal fin, but it's not as pronounced as the dorsal fin.
From the acaras, did you then go into African straight away, or
no,
kept around?
We kind of kept that tank for a while, moved house, and then but then life gets in the way. You get a bit bored of fish, and I stopped for a while.
Stopped entirely?
Yeah.
How long for?
Oh, at least 10 years.
Yeah, okay.
And then got into marine tanks, marine aquariums.
Yeah, right.
Got a small tank with seahorses, couple soft corals, and then that progressed into a 4-foot aquarium with hard stony corals, SPS. And yeah, I wanted the challenge with all that and growing those hard stony corals. But at the time, metal halide lights was the only lighting you could pretty much use. LEDs weren't strong enough. Yep. And it was just too expensive to keep that running.
Yeah.
So that stopped. Bought this place. Wanted to get back into it.
Yeah.
I've always wanted a fish room, and I've always loved Tanganyikans.
Yeah.
There's something special about them.
Yeah, I guess you get the sort of colour from saltwater for the most part.
You really do, yeah.
Some really unique behaviour.
Yeah.
And you don't have to catch the fish out and take the babies out every 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Well, the ironic thing with that is the day I broke that aquarium up and sold everything, my blue-green chroma spawned.
I noticed this tank as well has some teeny tiny fry, but you kind of have to scare them a little bit.
Yeah.
What species are we looking at here?
So this is a Neolamprologus corleurus, a shell dweller from Lake Tanganyika. There is a pair in here. Obviously, you're looking at the male. He's quite large. He doesn't fit in the shell. The female is pretty much constantly in the shell, and he hardly ever lets her out, which is kind of unfortunate because we don't get to see her. But she's about half the size of him. And they've got a brochardi kind of like tail, like that lyre tail look, which is beautiful. Now you notice the sand bed is quite dirty, but that's because the fry are incredibly hard to see. You only really notice them when they move around. They're so well camouflaged. And if I was to try and gravel vac this tank, I'll inevitably be sucking up fry. So I just let it be.
Yeah.
I sometimes get outbreaks of cyanobacteria in these aquariums, and I just use ChemiClean in there, and that gets rid of it in a number of days.
Yeah. It is a great benefit of having tanks at eye level, because I know some of mine that are down low, like often I'll do maintenance on them.
Yeah.
And accidentally realize halfway through that
it's inevitable,
there's actually frying there or something. So.
Yeah. Oh, you can kind of see the female's tail moving.
He's right there,
mate. He keeps her in there, eh?
She gets stuck.
Yeah.
You got some really nice, beautiful longfin bristlenose, which I guess they're not Tanganyikans. What are they doing here?
Okay, yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it? These are, Lake Tanganyikan bristlenose. No, joke. These are, the parents of these were actually given to me by my cousin Adam, and they were longfin, normal colour bristlenose, so the black variety. But that black variety spat out 4 different types of bristlenose: albino longfin, as well as obviously longfin common colour bristlenose, but also the short fin varieties of both those as well. So 4 different types of bristlenose from the one pair. And then from those fry, I grew up the adults, and these are the result of that. They only now produce longfin albino bristlenose, even though they had the black gene in them and the short fin gene as well. So it only took 1 generation to get back to albino longfin bristlenose. But yeah, these are quite in demand from fish stores in Sydney because of the beautiful long fins that the bristlenose have. And the white, the albino, it just stands out more in a darker tank, obviously. And it is quite nice to see the fanning fins. Beautiful fish.
So having a fish room, have you had any real disasters or horror stories or anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
Any lessons out there to be learned?
Well, the first horror story happened when the first time it flooded in Sydney. When the mountain's up here, pretty high up, but we got some localised flooding. And on one of the first days of the rains, just after the bushfires, ironically, I noticed a puddle of water coming into the fish room, and I thought one of the fish tanks had leaked. And I went out the front, and there was pretty much a lap pool out the front yard.
Oh, jeez.
And about an hour later, I was standing in about half a foot of water in this room. Because this room is below the house by about half a foot. So had a bit of a flooding event in here. And that day I had some fish in this tank, Neolamprologus tetracephalus, and they decided to spawn that day with the fish room flooded. Luckily, I had removed the floorboards from this room because we found underneath one of the joists, there was a pinched electrical cable that was running from one side of the room to the other, that exposed cable,
no.
exposed copper, and this room would have still been flooded. Like with the amount of water that was in here, you wouldn't have been able to get to it. So it would have been pretty dangerous.
Yeah, for sure.
That's pretty much the worst thing I've had. Just cleaned all that up. A couple of days later, one of the bulkheads on one of these tanks, I can't remember which one, got blocked. So water just kept getting pumped into the tank and overflowed. This was literally a few days after the fish room got flooded. So I had to, again, clean it all up.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Oh no.
That's pretty much the worst of it, really.
The contrast between the two grow outs, like, it's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
I love it. This fish as well is pretty cool. Like as a baby, silvery little fish.
So that's the Fishroom. Blake, you can pop up the proper scientific name on the screen here because I'm not going to pronounce that first name. It's great. It's crazy sounding. But yeah, they're Fishroom. The male's beautiful blue body with a black fins when they're in spawning condition. They're very fast growers. They're probably about 5 or 6 months old, those fry, compared to 2 years old for the Calvus, and they're about the same size. So mouth breeding cichlids grow much faster. But the bright yellow fish you're seeing on camera, they're the older fry from my 2 breeding pairs of Neolamprologus leilupi. Again, growing out in a 5-foot long aquarium. As you can see, there's no sand bed, just so I can keep the tank a little bit cleaner. The downside of that is the smallest amount of detritus in the tank, the fish swim and it just gets back into the water column. So if I had a little bit of gravel in there, I'd probably get caught in it, which would make it look a bit cleaner, but just for simplicity, I run these tanks bare bottom, just to keep them clean. And having a brighter sand bed or bare bottom tank with white styrofoam helps the leilupi color up as well. You don't want to put leilupi in a dark tank. They'll darken up within a few days to match their surroundings.
Yeah, and another reason I sort of just point out the feather fins or the phosphorus is because a lot of people think with Tanganyikans, they're all bottom dwellers, you know, and they are actually more of a mid to top dweller, similar with like sardine cichlids as well.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So there are options to fill out an entire tank if you just want a big, beautiful Tanganyikan display.
That's a really good point. That's exactly right. And you know, they're very, very colorful fish as well. Like the males are just, some specimens you see, they're just incredible. They're like electric blues, but on another level. And they get quite large. You're talking about 20 centimeters.
Oh, for sure.
And with the trailing fins that the males get, beautiful fish. But yeah, exactly what you said. Mid-water swimming fish, they'll swim all over the tank. They won't hug the sand bed. They won't hide. You'll see them all the time.
Yeah.
You just need a large tank for them.
So in terms of the sump and having things on a sump, I'm sure along the journey you've worked out with different filtration systems as well. What are your thoughts on sump filtration versus, you know, somebody here just has maybe one tank in their room with a sponge filter or whatever?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, of course. If you've got multiple tanks, I still believe it's better to run them off a sump system rather than individual, especially if you're keeping the same species of fish. Like I am here, I can easily pop in, you know, these leilupi from this tank here where they're with the breeding parents into the 5-foot aquarium behind me in the grow out tank, and there'll be no changes in water chemistry, water parameters whatsoever because they're on the same system. I don't need to acclimatize the fish. With fish in individual smaller tanks, the water parameters can change more quickly, and you know, the water parameters across all these tanks are going to be slightly different. Individual tanks can have cross-contamination as well, just by using a net on one tank and using it on another tank, or even siphoning, doing water changes. You can still contaminate your sick fish from one tank to another. So you really need to be mindful of that. Even if you run individual tanks, don't let your guard down. It would be easy to let your guard down in that situation because the tanks are physically separated, but you really still need to be careful when you introduce new fish into your fish room.
Yeah, for sure.
These are the white Neolamprologus Calvus. There's a number of different generations of fry in this tank. It's a 5-foot long grow out aquarium, and I wouldn't recommend you do this long term in your homes. I only basically have them in this tank because I move them on to the wholesaler or to local fish stores in Sydney, as well as people at the Cichlid Club. So they don't stay in this tank for too long, and I've only recently stocked it back up with all the other Calvus that I had in the grow out aquariums on the Sump system. So this is pretty much all I have left until my Neolamprologus Calvus breeding pair spawn again, which they have a number of days ago, but those fry are going to take about a year or two to at least until they get into this aquarium, because they're very slow growers.
Yeah, they are a beautiful fish though, but yeah, you just sort of have to invest like
a lot of time,
4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Once you pick them up.
Very, very slow growers.
Yeah. I think if you go into it with that in mind, you'll be rewarded with a great fish.
I mean, it's a stunning tank. It's quite unique. It's probably my favorite tank in the whole fish room. It's not even aquascaped. I always tell my subscribers on my channel that I might aquascape it one day. I'd love to see what it would look like, but I'm constantly catching fish out of this tank. And if I was to aquascape it, it would be a bit of a waste. It'd be a lot harder to catch them.
Yeah.
So that's why it's minimalistic look, just so I can catch the fish easier.
It is quite funny you mentioning aquascaping though, because one thing about Tanganyikans, they are builders. They do all the aquascaping themselves. Like if we look at this tank down here before, you did not do this, did you?
No.
That is pure fish excavation right there.
Yep. Just
so there's these yellow Calvus, gold Calvus?
These are gold compressoriceps.
Gold compressoriceps.
Yeah, so they're similar looking fish. They've just got a higher back and a steeper forehead. Yeah. That's probably the easiest way to describe the difference between Calvus and compressoriceps.
Yeah.
Very similar looking fish, but they're different.
And no dots, I guess.
Yeah, no dots on these compressoriceps. There's no dots. There are some compressoriceps that do have the iridescent spots, adding further confusion to the look. But they will crossbreed with Calvus, so you do need to keep them separate.
Yeah,
that's one big thing. We don't want crossbreeding to happen. We don't. So in the Tanganyikan world, anyway.
He's just pushed everything up to then create a little pit in there.
Yep, the Fursafurisha did that.
We'll see. So yeah, those are the adult Fursafuras back there, but they'll colour up a lot more in breeding conditioning.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're a bit spooked out. You can see they're all staying at the back of the tank.
Yeah, still quite an impressive fish. Anyway.
Yeah, you could see the trailing fins.
Yeah.
On the tail, that lyre tail look.
And one other thing I've often wondered about your setup, Tanganyikan water is a lot different to at least Melbourne water.
Yeah, what have you got in Melbourne?
We got about 6.8 pH.
Really?
Yeah, 0 pH, 0 GH.
Wow. Okay, yeah. Far out. That's really soft and acidic.
What have you got?
Last time I checked, pH was about 7.6.
Okay.
Still soft water, about 3.
Yeah.
So so when I started the fish room, I was using cichlid buffers to bump up, the pH and make the water hard. And I was finding pretty good success with that. And then I thought, I'd stop that for a while and just see what happens. And I believe now that I was finding that the Calvus fry survival rate wasn't as good as what it was. Because like I was saying before, off camera, I haven't been spawning the Calvus anywhere near as frequently as I used to.
Yep.
And that I think is down to not using the cichlid lake buffers.
Yeah, okay.
Especially with the hardness.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem obviously with the high pH, it's up there, but the water's I think is a little bit too soft for them.
Okay.
They'd survive, but not thrive.
Yeah, there's probably pros and cons, like you're saying, it's more natural, maybe their eggs hatch, calcify correctly and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But then again, maybe when it comes time to preparing them for sale, it's probably good to get them used to
tap water. Yeah. I mean, these have been running on tap water for at least 2 years now. And that's one of the things I did it for, is just as an experiment and a cost factor. I've got a lot of water in this fish room, and it's not cheap to keep topping all those drums up with Tanganyika buffer, but I've actually recently started doing it again in the last month. So yeah, I'll be reporting on those findings soon and see how it goes, because I'm pretty sure it will make a difference. So I'm a member of the New South Wales Cichlid Society, and they have monthly meetings the first Saturday of every month. And yeah, you go to the club, You put the fish in, they scrutinise them, make sure they're not hybrids, they're not deformed, anything like that, and then they auction them off, and other members that attend the club that night can buy your fish. And it's really exciting, it's really interesting just to put your fish in the auction and hope you get a really good price for them. And you also have the opportunity to obviously buy fish from the club as well. And that's how I source a lot of my fish. Rather than going to a fish store, you will save some money from going to the club. So by going to the fish club and buying through the auction, you're going to be helping your local hobbyists, supporting them, rather than the aquarium stores importing fish into Australia from overseas. So yeah, if you are in Sydney or live close to Sydney, really recommend you come down to the New South Wales Cichlid Society. You can go on their website or their Facebook. And like I said, they meet every first Saturday of the month, and it's out at Moorebank at a public school there.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm jealous. I'll have to go one day.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to come up, and we'll go down one day when you're up here next time, because it's really good. And they have in-depth talks about species and how cichlid husbandry, and you learn a lot from those talks. And yeah, you see a lot of rare fish come through, fish that you definitely won't see in your local fish stores.
Awesome. Well, thanks heaps, Jason, for having me. I really appreciate it. And if you do want some more info on plumbing setups or anything Tanganyikan, definitely check out his channel. You know, there's some really good information there and really clearly articulated too.
Thanks, Blake.
Definitely worth checking out. You know, you're doing a great job here and it's really impressive. And
cheers, mate. Really appreciate that.
You can come back another day.
Yeah, that'd be awesome to have you guys back.
All right, thanks. If you like the video, it helps me out to smash like, hit subscribe and all that fun stuff, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching. That's it.